This video is for adults only. It is not child friendly. If you are a child of any age, please exit this video immediately. If you are a minor, exit immediately. If you are an adult, continue, but read the disclaimer in the description box below this video on YouTube. Thank you. In this video, I'm doing a series about my story, basically. I think I'm going to just start labeling it what number it is and my story, and then from there. But it's about abuse, like various types. Some just call it narcissistic abuse, but it's various types of abuse. And most of my plan I'm doing at home on my computer. Sometimes there'll be drive vlogs like this, just whenever I feel like it. And I have mentioned in, I think, two of them, or one of them. This actually would be the third, if I put it in order. I mentioned that I don't know if suddenly I might say, okay, this has been too much and I'm going to stop, because the abuse I felt, I'm 56 years old. I've experienced it my whole life. Go and watch those videos. I don't want to repeat all of that. And it might just be too much. Seriously, I've been making videos on this topic for, I don't know, much of the past 5 years. And I've never just sat down and told my story. I've tried, like the one I want to make now, I've tried to make videos on this one. I put them on a different channel, but I could never complete it. And I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why. But the other ones were from childhood. This one will jump ahead. Okay. Now this one somewhat goes along with the second one I made. And some of that I was talking about when you and or your family gets threatened by an abusive person, or based on what you say, you do, whatever, they're threatened with their life, basically, or physical injury of some way. And this one is about it, but like I said, jumping ahead from my childhood into my, I don't even remember what age I was then, seriously. And I'm going to say this up front. The man I'm going to talk about is deceased. Okay, he had no remaining family. He was actually adopted. His only remaining at that time when he died was his adopted father, and he's died since then too. And it was basically, this was a man that, so it's a really long story. Basically, I'm divorced, and at some point after my divorce, I was looking for somebody to go and do outdoorsy stuff with. And what I felt was, back then you could look online, it wasn't like a dating service. It was very different than what you see today. And I saw this man, this local man, and his picture with him and his dog. And I thought, okay, I don't see myself as being attracted to him, in a romantic way. I was divorced, like I said. And so I'm going to just, see, his whole profile was saying that. And it wasn't a dating service. It was different back then. Okay, pardon the blinkers. But something on his profile made me think that he was also looking for someone to go and do outdoorsy stuff with. So I started writing him. He just looked like a regular Joe, regular person. And well, so there's so much to, I don't know who's supposed to be going here. Really. And to kind of go through this quickly, we met, he agreed. He had told me beforehand, he said something that made me question a few things about him, and but not to the extent, because he looked like such a nice guy. He looked like in a way, a Bubba, but a nice Bubba, okay? And just seemed like somebody to go do outdoorsy stuff with. Didn't turn out that way, no. And I can jump through quite a bit of it. We became boyfriend, girlfriend. At that age, what I was then, saying boyfriend, girlfriend seems very sophomoric. But then I found out really what he was all about. To me, he was definitely a psychopath. Okay, now this kind of goes along with my first and second videos. And I think he was actually diagnosed. He was in prison, okay? What I found out over time, now all this starts coming out, is that he has spent most of his life about half of his life in prison. And he was in his 40s, early 40s during that time. And basically, yeah, he was a very bad guy. He was a very bad dude, as it turned out. He became my stalker, okay? Seriously bad. He was actually on one of these TV shows, cable TV shows. I'm not going to mention which one, but it was one about crime and everything. And really, wow. More and more I thought about it, more and more I realized how much danger I was in because of this guy. And like I said, he eventually became a stalker. And I went through a stage of thinking, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. I was so messed up during that time, so messed up, unbelievable, between the divorce and all those problems associated with it, and then meeting this guy who, many of them are master manipulators, and that he started threatening me and my family. Okay, so where was I? I mentioned that he was a very bad guy, as it turned out, and then he started threatening me and my family. He became my stalker, and that I went through mistakenly thinking, literally, to keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And I was pretty messed up back then. Pretty messed up, very. Anyway, I was also teaching at the time. Yeah, at a university. Oh my goodness. It was just really strange time in my life. But that of having your family threatened put me in a really odd situation, because and being so messed up because of this. Now, I'm not saying I was messed up because of drugs or anything. I don't do drugs. I don't do alcohol. I have never. I'm not that type. I don't. Well, yeah, I've tried drinks when I was younger, but I just don't drink. Don't do any of that. I mean, messed up as in he messed up my mind and twisted so much stuff. And I mean, that can happen to anybody. I've heard recently people say, well, people who studied or counselors or whatever, they should know better or something like that. It's not that easy. My degrees are in psychology and sociology, and it's really, truly not that easy to, you don't have some kind of magical thing about you that you can never be fooled by somebody. You can never be manipulated by somebody. Anybody can, okay? Because we need to know these people are experts practically at what they do. They have it down to a fine art on how to manipulate anybody, and you have heard people say that, they don't want to go to counseling, because, marriage counseling, or they have been to marriage counseling and the counselor was fooled by their husband. Well, so were you. I'm not blaming the victim. But they are really good. They're really skilled. I would never think that it's a good idea to go to counseling with that person with that spouse who's extremely manipulative. It needs to be separate. And that's my view. I'm not here to give anybody any counseling advice, anything along that line. Read the disclaimer in the description box below this video on YouTube. And if you're still on here and you're a child and you see that it says this is not for children or that this is for adults only, exit now. Thank you. Okay. Anyway. So, about this guy. Some of the things that, like I said, threatening me, my family, and some of his threats, I have such a difficult time even trying to say it because it's so horrendous of what he said he was going to do to me personally. And I don't want to say it because I don't want to give anybody, a bunch of psychopaths and sociopaths and paths and all this anywhere. I don't want to give anybody any ideas, but I had actually heard that same thing that he threatened me with from somebody else, another man that I had just met. And he was, he was bad. too. And this is, I'll go into that more in another time. But anyway, what this guy had threatened is something that would cause true terror in anybody, male or female. And that's what his goal was, to cause terror. And to manipulate and to control me. Oh my goodness, how he tried so many ways. Like I said, he'd become a stalker. And, I mean, he would just show up wherever I moved to. Just show up. Telling me things like, he must have watched a lot of TV. Saying he was going to scale the walls if I didn't let him in. And attack me and all this kind of thing. And really, to move quickly ahead, the only thing that really stopped him was I finally told his dad, that if he didn't have him leave me alone, make him leave me alone, he was going back to prison. And I was so sick of it. And that was 4.5 years of that, by the way. And I had tried this before, but it didn't work. But this time it did, and then 6 months later, he died. Okay, he died from some kind of heart problem. It took his dad a long while to get it determined what was wrong, too. What happened. Back to that whole feeling of, you're, because of a situation you got in. I'm not going to say the mistake. I don't blame victims, okay? But I'm not going to say the mistake you made, but this situation you wound up in can affect so many people. Like, it could be the family you created. It could be your family, and or your family of origin, or anybody your ex even. That's what was my case, was the ex even. And that's what happened. He threatened to everybody. Well, eventually I had to, I was living, I think, in Dallas at the time. I'm in a suburb of Dallas now. And I was going back and forth taking care of my mom. I was separated. I was divorced from Adam, and that's a whole nother story. But I shared a house with him, but I wasn't there. I was in Dallas, and I went about, let's say 7-hour drive away to take care of my mother. I would go back and forth, or take her back up with me, bring her back. All this during this time. So one of those, when some things got really bad, he knew that I did this, and I went one time and left. But my mind was so messed up, so fearing so much about who this man threatened to kill, seriously, that it's like a strange weakness comes over. Yeah. Said in a not blaming the victim kind of way. But that is how I felt it myself. But it was also that with the keep your friends closer, your enemies closer, because I didn't know what he was up to. And that was not knowing what he was up to, or whether he was like getting on a bus to come up, go down there and start some problems, or if he was starting problems with people I knew up here, whatever, that was weighing on me because I was feared for their lives, you see. But like I was saying, I think so much happened that it was, my mind was not right. I can't even put it that way. It was messed up because of him. And eventually, I don't know what happened. I really don't know what gave me this kind of view. I remember being angry or just tired of it. And I no longer allowed him to control me in any way. And like I said, I told his dad, if he doesn't make him leave me alone, he's going back to prison. And he had told me all kinds of things about how he wouldn't, even if I made him go back to prison, reported him, he went back to prison, whatever happened, he would not spend any time because of some kind of law that had happened and all kinds of crazy stuff. You know how they lie. And Now you would think that after all that I went through with him, with his threats and the way he threatened me, and some of the things, it was very scary, frightening, fear of my life so much, in my family's life. Well, and then I got his father to make him leave me alone. You would think that would be it. And it did for like 6 months. And then I was sitting there one night and I had this strange, odd feeling come over me, and basically what I did was I called his number, his phone number. Now he lived with his dad. the stalker, had a health problem with his heart, and he couldn't work, so he lived with his dad, but his dad was elderly, and he also helped take care of his dad, you know, and like I said, a man in his 40s. And he, so you would think that I would just say, okay, good, he's out of my life, but I called that number, and it was disconnected. And he had his own phone in his room, and his dad has his own phone for the house. So I called the house number, and his dad answered, and I talked to him, and he said he died. But before I actually, when I think back, before that, I had that weird feeling. I looked online. I can't remember now if it was before or after, really. But I saw his obituary. So, yeah. I think then is when I called his dad. His dad told me, and yeah. But it was weird because at that moment, I felt grief, very, really deep grief. But it was also because another boyfriend I'd had died the year before. Now, I didn't have the boyfriends at the same time. It was just a different one from years before. And I think both of them hit me both of it, with the second one dying, it hit me really hard, like I said. And you would think it wouldn't, but, you know, I think many of us know how that works and why it works that way. It's not really the person, it's the one that they use to love bomb you, as people call it. The person, the one that was the fake that they showed you from the beginning that you're truly mourning. Okay, the fake one. The one that they faked that you really thought was the person. And, yeah. And the thing about it is, when I look back, the first one of those two, I really loved that guy. But when I started, you know, over time, started to see, when I started talking more about narcissism and things along this line, and it was before YouTube, I started to see, yeah, you know, he had that. It was part of him, too. Story of my life, yeah. More ways than one. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I don't think you can see the full moon out. That you never can in this kind of camera, or many kinds. But it's a full moon. It must be. It's very bright. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. And like I said, I'm doing a series. I'm not reading comments. I have not read any comments from the beginning. I'm not trying to be mean to anybody, rude, or anything like that. But as I mentioned in a whole little 4-minute video about it, I have had experiences with people. You know, I'm doing a series or something, and they want to be the one to do the punchline, even though it's not always like a punchline, but you know what I'm saying. And they want to tell me how I should think and what I should have done, and blame me. You know, you have trolls and stuff like that. And I'm not going to do that. So I have mindset to where I have to approve my comments. So they don't come natural. They just don't come through. I have to actually go under a certain thing to find them. And I'm not going to do that. It won't tell me. It won't, you know, give me a notification or anything that there are any there. I'm not going to look. I'm not going to read. I'm not going to watch it. It's even people I like. I'm not going to be doing it. I won't know that they have done so. So, I won't know if anybody has written me a comment at all. So, you know, on YouTube. So, I just don't want anybody to interfere. A lot of people want to guide you in your story, which is, I'm not saying all this is bad, but I know I want to go with my own flow, and I don't want to be somebody telling me, well, you should do this and you should do that. Y'all, like I said. So, I'm not going to do it. Anyway, talk to y'all in another video. Bye.